Welcome to Nurses with Voices. I'm Dr. Lendra, your host and fellow nurse who's traded in burnout for breakthroughs. I'm here to show you how to transform your nursing career into one filled with purpose, reduced stress, and incredible opportunities. Whether you're looking to start your own business, build generational wealth, or simply find a healthier role in nursing, this podcast is for you. Join me to explore practical strategies to overcome burnout, combat bias, and chart new paths in nursing. It's time to reclaim your voice and reimagine your future in healthcare. Let's get started. Welcome back to Nurses with Voices. I'm your host, Dr. Lendra, and I couldn't be more excited to kick off this new season with you. If you've been with us since the beginning, you know that we've had some remarkable conversations with incredible guests, nurse leaders, entrepreneurs, and healthcare professionals who've shared their stories, right? Their stories of overcoming burnout, combating bias, and redefining leadership in healthcare. I want to take a moment and thank all of my guests from season one for opening up their hearts and really sharing their journeys with the audience. And, your stories have left such a lasting impact. And I really just want to say thank you for opening up those stories and really being able to help someone who was listening to know, that their voice mattered. Know that your story impacted someone who was listening, and I completely appreciate you sharing that. As I took some time off this summer to really reflect, I realized that I wanted this season to amplify voices that we don't hear from nearly enough. And that's our frontline nurses. These are the nurses who face the realities of healthcare every day on a day to day basis. They're the ones navigating the complexities, the challenges, and ultimately the victories, right? And it's time, it's not just about, what nurse leaders are doing and what they're doing at the top, but it's about what's happening right in the trenches, right? Right at the bedside of our frontline for our frontline nurses. And it's time that their stories are heard because Nurses with Voices was created to give a voice to those who have been silenced for so long, right? Whether it's through systemic bias, overwhelming burnout, or simply the demands of the profession. Too many nurses feel like their voices are unheard. And this season, we're changing that. But before I dive in to what's ahead, let me take you back to why I started this podcast in the first place. After 20 years as a nurse and working in nursing leadership, I experienced firsthand the effects of conscious and unconscious bias, not just on patient care, but on the well being of healthcare workers. And these experiences led me to write my book, Confessions of a Nurse Executive: The Conscious and Unconscious Bias in Healthcare. And that project gave me a platform to start some crucial conversations. But more importantly, it fueled my mission to empower nurses to break through from burnout and build generational wealth. And that's why Nurses with Voices would exist. Now, you might be saying, what does breaking through from burnout have to do with building generational wealth? So I'm going to share a little story with you. Well, not a story, but I'm going to share, I guess a story, a journey. My experiences in healthcare leadership, really drove me to identify the need to make an impact elsewhere. And when I say elsewhere, I mean in the community. So I started building my business, right? So I launched my business. And so I started my business, I started consulting. And before my business actually became official, I was unofficially consulting, and but it was still a part of building my business, right? And part of building my business, I started to really get my spark back for nursing. And, I started realizing, like, wait a minute, I can make in this amount of time, what I made in a year as my annual salary of nursing, like, what am I doing wrong? And why nobody else is teaching us this, right? Now, if you grew up at the dinner table talking about, finances and business development, then that's a completely different beast, right? But for nurses, these are things that we're not taught. We're not taught business in nursing. We're taught our clinical skills that we need. We're taught how to care for patients, how to be empathetic, compassionate. These are the things that we're taught in nursing. No one teaches us the business side of healthcare. And learning the business side of healthcare is what gave me my passion back for the industry. And it also taught me how I can build generational wealth. Now, when we look at the term generational wealth, and I know that term is used loosely, but when we look at the term, it is just that. It's about leaving a legacy for your children and your children's children and your children's children to come, right? So that's how you build generational wealth. And for me, starting my business and becoming a business owner helped me to see that. It was being around other industries, it was being around other business owners and learning and seeing how I can transfer my skills as a nurse and utilize my expertise and transition that into a business and being able to build a wealth that I would have probably never seen in nursing. Because what are we taught? We're taught to get our educations, right? Go to high school, go to college, get a job, work for 25, 30 years, put money into your 401k and retire and live off your pension. But those days are kind of over, right? I mean, when you look around, sometimes we don't even know if we're going to have Social Security in the next 10 years, right? So I say all this to say that's the relationship between, and that's how you connect breaking through from burnout and building generational wealth. And, that's why, as I mentioned, that's why Nurses with Voices even exists. It's to amplify our stories so that we can move from burnout to breakthroughs. And this season, I'm bringing even more of those breakthrough stories to the table. You'll hear from ICU nurses who've built platforms to advocate for change, like one nurse who uses humor to shed light on healthcare's often frustrating bureaucracy, right? We'll also be joined by thought leaders like Dr. Badia, the founder of Ortho Now, who's transforming specialized healthcare. And the founder of Teach RN, right? A powerhouse nurse who's built a mentorship community of 6,000 ICU nurses. These are the voices of resilience and innovation. And I can't wait for you to hear their stories. But there's more. Listen, this season we're taking a deep dive into nursing advocacy, fighting for the right and well-being for nurses everywhere. We'll explore burnout, reclaiming our strength and purpose, and most importantly, what it really takes to build generational wealth as a healthcare professional. And that's why that really leads me to my announcement that I'm thrilled to announce. I am thrilled to announce that on October 24th, I'll be hosting the Health and Wealth Expo live in person at the National Harbor in Maryland. And this in person summit is designed specifically for healthcare professionals looking to elevate their careers and their financial futures. And it's going to be a powerful day of networking, collaboration, and learning from industry experts who are ready to share their insights with you. Now, let me just give you a little history on the Health and Wealth Expo. So last year, when I launched my book, Confessions of a Nurse Executive, my book signing was hosted by Lowe's Consulting. And we got into discussion around health and wealth, right? And bias and how bias affects, our healthcare system. And, it really just all really spiraled back to, insurance and health and wealth. And that from that was a spinoff of the Health and Wealth Expo virtual summit that was hosted in March 2024 of this earlier this year. And after that expo, we were asked about hosting an in person summit. So we decided to go to multiple cities to really bring the Health and Wealth Expo for healthcare professionals to cities. And our first city is going to be the National Harbor. So it's that DMV area. It's kind of Washington, D.C. by way of Maryland, but it's going to be at the National Harbor. And it's really, and it's monumental for me because again, this is where it all started, right? My book signing. So it's kind of coming back full circle, and being able to bring this to healthcare professionals is, again, something that's a true passion of mine because we need to know this information, and we don't obtain this information unless we go out and we seek it. And I'm bringing it right to a city near you, and our inaugural in-person Health and Wealth Expo live summit will be at the National Harbor in Maryland. So make sure that you stay tuned because registration will be opening at the end of this week. And, again, I'm just so excited about it. I'm really excited to be able to bring this to you. We have an incredible lineup of speakers covering essential topics like financial literacy, real estate. You'll expect to hear from experts on how to invest in real estate, grow your personal brand, develop strategies for long term financial security, nurse business development. Whether you're a nurse, entrepreneur looking to start or scale your business, or simply interested in ways to protect your wealth, there'll be something for everyone. You'll get practical advice on, again, your nursing skills and thriving in business. I mean, it's more than just a conference, right? It's a chance to really connect with like-minded professionals, learn from the best. And take actionable steps towards building a future where you can thrive both personally and professionally. So you can log on to Health and Wealth Summit 2024.com and take a look at our past virtual summit, and you really get an idea of what to expect. And by the end of this week, the Health and Wealth Summit 2024.com will be live and accepting registrations for the upcoming live summit. So I can't wait to be able to offer this to you guys. It's going to be such a game changer. And listen, and I'm not stopping there. I have to share with you that last week I had the honor of speaking at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual legislative conference. And let me tell you, it was a powerful experience. If you've never been to an ALC event, you absolutely need to plan to attend next year. If it's one of those events that you have to experience at least once. And once you do, you'll understand what I mean. I mean, just the energy, the connections, the important conversations that happen, they make you just want to come back year after year. So during my session, I spoke on stage about rooting out racism in healthcare, which, if you don't know me by now, you know that that's a topic that is, really deep. I'm deeply passionate about. And I was able to share highlights from my book, right? Confessions of a Nurse Executive, and hearing different perspectives and, from others in the room, and having and listening to them share their stories. It was refreshing. And when I say that, I mean, it was a reminder that we're not alone in these struggles, right? Like, I think that that's what makes these discussions so impactful, right? They let someone know that you're not alone, and that, your experiences are valid, right? And that we no longer have to be silenced. Listen, the truth is, the only way that we can be a part of the solutions is if we get involved. For me, getting involved meant starting businesses, right? DL James Consulting, right, where I offer courses and events and mentorship, to help nurses overcome burnout and build generational wealth. I also founded Premier Infusions and Wellness, where we offer IV vitamin therapy and weight loss services to combat diabetes and obesity and hypertension, right? This is how you get involved. You have to ask yourself, how do you get involved? Right? Do you know who your local government officials are? Do you know who your mayor is? Do you know who your congressman is? Who do you know who your senator is? Do you know your local organizations? When it comes to your nursing units, if you're in a toxic working environment, do you know do you know how to start a shared governance, or is there a shared governance? Do you have a solution to something on your nursing unit where you can start engaging your peers and your coworkers? Let's not let it continue to be someone else's problem and really start to ask ourselves, how can we bring a solution to the problem? Right? So if you've been, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and well, not really so much shifting gears, but I do want to say if you've been feeling the weight of burnout or facing challenges that make you feel alone, know that these spaces and communities are ready to lift you up. And events like the ALC, they provide the platform, right, to really share, connect, and start making real change together. Right. I highly encourage you to attend next year. I mean, the conversations we're having now are just the beginning, and we need your voice in the room. Yeah, for those of you ready to step into entrepreneurship, I'm hosting a class on launching your own IV hydration concierge business. And the reason, and I mention this because, again, it goes back to being a part of the solution. And maybe the solution for you is utilizing your expertise in a different way. And when you have resources and options, we have to really grab hold of them. Again, I'm hosting this class because, I've been asked for it, right? I've been asked by many of you has been asking about this class, and I decided to host this class for about 10 to 12 people. And I'm excited, right? I'm excited to offer a practical path forward. This is all part of my mission to help nurses not only break free from burnout, but to build sustainable generational wealth. As we discuss burnout and breaking free from burnout, I created a free guide to overcome burnout, and it provides actionable tips and strategies to beat burnout. And I will make sure that the link is in the show notes so that if you're listening, you can access it. And it's really, really helpful. And these actionable tips, they are evidence-based, and I use them. So it's definitely something that you can take away from it. So please, please, please download it. And as we move into this new season, remember that this platform was created for you. It's to give nurses back their voices. We're often silenced in healthcare, our stories pushed aside, our contributions undervalued. But here at Nurses with Voices, your voice matters, your story matters, and together we'll continue to move forward and break through from burnout. If you are interested in being a guest on our show, please make sure you reach out to info at nurseswithvoicespodcast.com. If you have a story, a compelling story, and how you created a solution to the problem of bias or burnout, we'd love to hear your story. Thank you so much for joining us today. So make sure that you grab your cup of coffee, get your notebook, maybe your headphones as you go for a walk and listen to your favorite podcast. Make sure you add Nurses with Voices to your playlist and get ready for another season of inspiration, education, and empowerment. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And make sure let's make this season one of real change. Right. I'm your host, Dr. Lendra, and I can't wait to share these powerful stories with you. Stay tuned for what's to come. And remember, your voice makes a difference. Until next time, make sure that you stay inspired, stay educated, and stay empowered.